On Larry King Now, Oscar nominee Terrence Howard.
I thought it meant that I did a great job and that everybody would love me from that point forward. And no, because from that moment onward, anything I did was front page news.
When you get a script, what do you look for?
I've never finished a script. I'll read up to like page 30. And if I'm not intrigued by the character, then I'm not in it.
Plus,
some people became divas. I became a little bit of a diva myself.
Did you?
Oh, of course. The arrogance is necessary just to remember that this is me here.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our special guest, Terrence Howard. He's a great actor, one of my favorites. The Oscar-nominated actor known for his roles in The Butler, Crash, and Hustle and Flow. And now he's reviving his role as Quentin in Best Man Holiday, the long-awaited follow-up to 1999's Best Man. Best Man Holiday will be in theaters November 15th.
Thank you.
Before we talk about that, let's talk about The Butler. How did you get that part in that that's a civil rights movie for all time.
What's funny about that, I was chasing that film for 6 years. Laura Ziskin, who used to head up Stand Up to Cancer, who just lost the battle last year to it. She had that script and we were campaigning for it for a long time.
You wanted to play the lead?
I wanted to play the butler. And then when Lee got it 6 years later, Lee wanted me to play the butler, and he teamed me up with Oprah, and it was just hard to make the age difference work. And so I knew when they had Forrest come in, I was like, this is gonna go to Forrest. So Lee calls me, he's like, look, brother, I don't know what to do. I want you in this movie, but I don't have anything left for you except this one little bitty character, which I wouldn't want to offend you with it. It's a guy that lives next door to her that's having an affair with her. And he's like, but you're too pretty for it. We have to ugly you up some way. We can do a patch or a scar. And I said, well, my front tooth is a cap. I said, I could take that out. And he was like, oh, TT, don't you do it, TT. Don't you do it, TT. He's like, well, when can we set up the dentist appointment? And so I took my tooth out and came down there. And Oprah had never seen me, because for 23 years, I've had this,
perfect teeth.
Yeah, this fake. And I hadn't seen it for 23 years. And Oprah, who normally looks me in the eye and is so enamored with my eyes, Oprah kept looking at my mouth and couldn't get away from looking at my mouth. And then after the second day, she wasn't looking at my mouth anymore. And I felt so free, absolutely free.
So no regrets that you weren't the lead?
No.
Let's talk about Best Man Holiday. It's an entirely black cast, right?
Yeah, we have this guy Eddie in there, add a little vanilla swirl to it.
Now Best Man came out in like 14 years ago.
Yeah, 1998.
What took so long for a follow-up?
Everybody has, people go a little Hollywood. Everybody starts making money and they feel like we don't need each other and we can, but as life ebbs and flows, finally we realized we needed each other. And Malcolm went back to the table, brought us all together for dinner 2 years ago and was like, are you guys willing to do this movie again? And we were like, yeah, we are.
The whole cast came back, right?
Everybody. Some people became divas, some, guys and girls. I became a little bit of a diva myself.
Did you?
Oh, of course. You learn how to fill up your own shoes. And for years, like as a black man, that's the strangest thing. When oftentimes when black men talk to other people, they tend to have their head to the side or they lower the bass in their voice because of the stereotype of not trying to seem intimidating. So the hardest thing is learning to actually speak with the bassness in your voice, to stand up straight, Yeah, I
never thought of that.
So sometimes we go a little overboard with it, and for me, the arrogance is necessary, just to remember that this is me here.
Yeah, I get it. I understand the movie ends with a cliffhanger centered on you Does that mean we have a third film coming?
Possibly. You know, it's all about how it performs.
It should do well, though, wouldn't you bet?
Oh my God! The movie covers, like when Malcolm first was going to make this rated R. I was like, how do you make a holiday movie rated R? He said it's adult subject matter, and I was like, well, you're going to lose half your audience. And he was like, I'm trying to tell an absolute truth in story, and truth and honesty in this story, and so he went for it. And as a result, when you watch it, it takes you through all the rides of friendship, all the downfalls of lack of faithfulness in your friendship, learning how to forgive, but then dealing with tragedy at the same time. And, you know, humor kind of keeps us going.
Do you like playing humor?
I haven't done it for 15 years. For 15
Comedy
years.
is a serious business, though.
Yeah.
You can't play it funny. It is funny, but you've got to play it
You
like...
play it serious.
Yeah.
Like in the first movie, I got in so much trouble because they hired me because I was doing this sitcom called Sparks, Sparks, and Sparks. And they hired me as the comedian. So they would tell me, okay, Quentin, Terrence, you need to deliver your line quicker because you got Tay, Harold, and Morris saying their lines like dun, dun, and then you take a beat and a half behind it. And I was like, but he's thinking about what they said. Well, just say the line, just say the line. I was like, no, I'm not saying the line. I'm thinking about, well, can you say it like it's a joke, just one for us? I was like, no. I said, you can cut it out any way you want to do it, but he's serious about what he's saying.
Correct.
And as a result of him being serious, the audience listened to it, and they could find the humor in it.
Can't wait to see it. Best Man Holiday will be in theaters November 15th. I bet it's a smash.
It's incredible.
You made a movie this year, Prisoners, with Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal. Why did that not do well? That was an amazing movie.
I think it frightened people. You know, it's jaws of the family, because there's no way to protect your family from what might happen right outside of it.
2 children taken away. And then the switch at the end.
Yeah, and what do you do with that if your kid is taken? You know, how do you respond? Do you become Hannibal Lecter and torture somebody, or do you become Jesus and, you know, and hope and forgive? And that dichotomy, or that line of demarcation between morality and responsibility.
Yeah.
That's
and
frightening.
Gyllenhaal was great, and Jackman was great, and you were great.
Everybody. I mean, Melissa Leo, I fell in love with her in this movie.
Yeah.
She's a beast. She is a beast when it comes to the industry because she is fearless, absolutely fearless. And I hate fake people. I hate fake actors. I hate fake producers. I hate fake industry. So when you see someone that's willing to, you know, live or die, that's the people you want to be around.
Coming up, we'll talk about Terrence and Conquering Hollywood right after this. We're back with Terrence Howard. He'll star in Best Man Holiday. You'll see it November 15th. When you get a script, what do you look for?
It's not what I look for. It's more what I hope to feel. Like with Hustle and Flow, I read the first page, that first monologue, and I didn't read the rest of the script. And I was just like, I'm in. I just look for the truth of it. I've never finished a script. I'll read up to like page 30. And if I'm not intrigued by the character, you know, then I'm not in it, you know? And I never finish the script until it's time to shoot that scene because I like not knowing where the person is going, you know?
In Prisoners, you play, you Jackman and you both have your children taken, but you're sort of secondary to him. He's the violent character and you sort of don't want to do this. Was it hard to play off that?
Yeah, because in my nature, I would like to imagine and envision myself as being like, you know, Keller Dover, like I would go and man up about this situation. But then there's this mean streak of morality that bordered the character's choices in dealing with the situation. You know, he could never let go of that morality, of that hope, you know, and that was kind of neat. You know, because I didn't know that fear inside of myself, so in order to live it through, made it kind of nice.
Did fame come late to you?
I was always famous, to me.
Now, why did you become an actor?
I realized I became an actor after my mom died. 4 years ago from colon cancer. I thought I became an actor because I knew how to play with my emotions, but after my mom's death, I realized that I became an actor because when my little brother was born, you know, up until then, my mom doted over me. But then when my little brother was born and looked like her father, she wanted him to be an actor. So I thought if I became an actor, I would win my mother's approval. And in 2008, when my mother died, I lost my appreciation for the business.
Really?
I lost the love of it, you know, because I didn't have anybody to please anymore with it.
So what brought it back?
The fans. A lot of them would come up and say, what you did in this movie moved me, or the first time someone called me Mr. Howard, a young actor called me Mr. Howard. And I appreciated that. And I saw the appreciation of what I brought to the table.
And when you were nominated for the Academy Award, didn't that change things?
Yeah, it did, but I didn't understand it at the time. You know, I thought it meant that I did a great job and that everybody would love me from that point forward. And no, it's like Martin Luther King said, history has seized me, because from that moment onward, anything I did was front page news. Everybody was I couldn't make any little mistakes anymore.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to come to grips with.
I interviewed Dr. King a couple of times, spent some time with him, and I knew Nelson Mandela, spent time at his house, interviewed him. You played him.
Yeah.
What was it like to play a living person?
With Nelson, you know, I believe the saddest thing about that is I never got to talk to him beforehand. So I felt like I was kind of stealing, but I knew that he had sacrificed most of his freedom and his youth for everyone else. So it felt amazing because I can grab from the sorrow, but also, you know, garnish some of the hope that he had. And I was a changed man from that moment forward, because you can't, you know, when he got circumcised at 16 years old, you know, they have to, if you give me a moment, you know, they take 7 or 8 boys out of the village and they put them in front of the shaman, and, you know, they have the manhood sitting there, and the shaman comes by and he grabs the foreskin and he comes down with a hatchet and he chops off the foreskin, and they're supposed to say immediately, "Ndiandoda," which means, I am a man. And when they cut his off, he hesitated for like 30 seconds. And that always bothered him, and he said he would never hesitate again to do what he was supposed to do. And I kind of took that into, you know, that character. And I got to play the younger him, you know, before he was aware of the responsibility.
Where did you learn your craft?
My great-grandmother was an actress, and I only had one acting lesson in my life, and it was with her. She taught me the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, why. Who are you? What are you trying to accomplish? When are you going to accomplish? Where will it be accomplished? And why you need to accomplish it. And she said, once you know those things, then you know the character and you can follow it through. And the rest of it, you just figure it out as you go.
Do you get scripts all the time now?
Yeah, I do. I don't read them. I don't have the time, mostly.
You don't read them?
No, I look at the titles of it, and
does an agent help you?
yeah, they go through it, you know, and then if somebody is really persistent and pushing something, you know, then I'll take a little moment at it. But most of the time, you know, like you pass by 1 million people on the street throughout the day, and some of them want your attention, and some of them need your attention. You know, you can't give your attention to everybody.
Have you rejected something you regretted?
No. No, I believe everything happens the way it's supposed to. And you can't miss.
So if you turned down a role and someone else did it, didn't bother you if that did well or not did well or whatever?
No, I've learned to follow my course. You know, I know out of the 500 million sperm that was sent into my mama, you know, the only reason I got to the egg is because I didn't look back or look to the side. I stayed focused on my goal.
We're talking about Terrence's ideal woman, and we'll talk about Oprah. Are they the same? We'll get to the heart of things after the break. We're with Terrence Howard. You'll see him in Best Man Holiday in theaters November 15th. What was it like to work with Oprah? And I hear you have comments about her breasts because you touched them in the movie.
I don't know if I touched them. I touched I
them.
touched the clothes that was near the that was attached to the breast.
Yes, you touched the cloth.
I found the funniest thing about her is, like, I've known her for the last 12 years in intimate gatherings. Quincy Jones introduced me to her initially, and so there was a camaraderie and a level of fun. I've seen her in hair rollers, you know, in robes. I've seen her just as Oprah, not as the icon Oprah. So I approached her, you know, it's just the 16-year-old girl that was abandoned and was looking for somebody to love, you know, and I didn't see, you know, the mystique of Oprah. I just saw the woman, and her eyes are beautiful. You get drawn into it. And she can put up the wall if she wants, but for whatever reason, she had a soft spot for me, and she let me in.
She's a good lady.
A wonderful.
I've always been friends with her for years, and she did a show in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Long before you knew her. Describe to me your ideal woman. In Elle magazine, you said, I like women who look like me. Generally, you're attracted to women who look like you because the most beautiful thing in nature is your own reflection.
Sure,
I never heard a thing like that before.
But isn't it true?
You look for women who look like you.
Yeah, you look for somebody that looks like your mom. Someone that looks...
Mom, maybe, yeah.
But who do you look like? You look like your mom.
Okay. You said in an interview you don't believe in premarital sex.
No, I don't believe in it, but hell.
You have to practice it.
No, I don't believe in smoking, but I still smoke.
You're a grandfather now?
Yeah, I'm a granddaddy.
What do you have, a little...
Little girl, little 10-month-old daughter, granddaughter.
What was it like?
I realized that when I had my children, I thought that, okay, I could live forever because my kids looked like me and I saw my spirit in them. But when I had my granddaughter, I realized that life is eternal because I saw my grandmother and my granddaughter, and I realized that they never die.
Is it your son's daughter?
No, my daughter's daughter. My daughter's daughter. You know.
Were you a protective father?
Oh, completely.
I'll bet.
I mean, even when me and my first wife got divorced and she moved back to Philly, I bought a house 2 blocks away from her just so, because I didn't believe that a man could really look after his family if he's 20 minutes away. I wanted to be 20 seconds away from the house, so if my kids called and had a problem, if somebody was choking, I can get there in 20 seconds.
Are you a Jehovah's Witness now?
No, my family is. I studied for years and had a hard time because it takes a lot of discipline, and I haven't mastered that discipline yet. You know, it takes a lot of faith.
You believe in God?
Oh, completely. I believe in a great creator, but I don't think any human being really has mastered the knowledge of what the creator of the universe really is.
I haven't. You believe in an afterlife?
I don't believe in death, you know.
What do you mean?
Pythagoras said a rock is nothing but frozen music. And music moves in octaves, and everything has the same components of a rock. Once a vibration begins, it never ends. It goes.
But you do depart the earth.
You do depart, but you refold and you unfold again, and you refold and unfold again.
In reincarnation, or?
Just a different iteration of what's necessary. We're all made from the very beginning, from God himself, his own nature, the nature of the universe. That's why I said you're 14.5 billion years old, same as I, same as this cup. You know, but oftentimes we forget that everything is alive and still breathing. You know, everything still has a prime resonant frequency moving through it and still intaking energy and pushing it out. We're all still very alive, and that makes everything sacred. And when you treat everything sacred, everything's wonderful.
Terrence Howard. When we come back, we'll find out who was the first girl he ever kissed. Next. By the way, what's your next film after Best Man Holiday?
I don't know. Right now...
Between scripts?
Right now, I'm just, you know, just taking in a lot of things in life. I mean, I've got a company where we grow diamonds called SIO, and I went to school for chemical engineering, and so
where'd you go to school?
To Pratt Institute.
Oh, really?
And I have my doctorate from South Carolina University.
I got an honorary degree from Pratt.
Right on. In what?
In English or something.
In English, yeah. Pratt was an amazing school.
Oh, I spoke to the class in Brooklyn.
It's an amazing
great
school.
We have some social media questions for you. Stephen Mark on Facebook wants to know the defining moment of your career, do you think?
The defining moment for me was probably in The Best Man Won. It was what I explained before. Because every time before then, anytime producer would ask me to do something, I would just do it, you know, I would just cave in. It was in that first movie that I sat down. I had just been fired from this thing called Harlem Aria because I wouldn't follow along with what they wanted to do. And I was like, well, you know what, I'm tired of being everybody else's play toy. So that was the first time when I actually said, no, I'm going to take my time, and he's serious about this. And when I did Hustle and Flow, it followed up with John Singleton wanted me to slap the girl playing Lexus when she called me a BIT. And I was like, no, that's not in the script. He wanted me to slap her and throw her down the stairs. And I was like, you will never redeem the character from that. He said, okay, well, I'll just have a stuntman do it. And I said, if you have the stuntman do it, then I won't, you know, you might as well have the stuntman finish the rest of the script because I'm not doing it. And I went to my trailer and packed up my things, and I was ready to go home because that wasn't the movie that I had signed up for. And 6 hours later, it took them 6 hours to reconfigure their thoughts. They came and they shot it the way we were supposed to, and
I admire you. Marcus via Twitter wants to know about your love for baby wipes.
When Elle magazine first asked me about that, I really thought I was doing a great service to humanity because when I had my first daughter, Aubrey, we ran out of wipes. And I looked down at the toilet paper that I normally use, and there was no way I was going to take dry toilet paper and wipe my baby with it. So I went and got a rag and washed it and did everything I was supposed to do. I said, why don't we do that as human beings, you know, as adults? So I started using baby wipes and I found out I got fewer colds throughout the year, you know. My underwear was clean. No streaks.
Okay. At Big D, ZD2222 wants to know if you still read The Watchtower and Awake.
Oh, yeah, I do.
At Kyra Sexy tweets, does crying really make you get some booty?
Nah, a woman wants a man. But being honest, you know, if you can be honest with your emotions, some tears are from God, and people like that.
At Mad Via Inc. Twitter wants to know, is Hollywood allowed to make a movie about black folks without you in it?
I think that should be blasphemy, if they would.
Oh, we finished the show with a game called If You Only Knew. First girl you ever kissed?
My mama.
Oh, but what about other than mama?
It was a girl named Wendy. She was my best friend's sister. We were 6 years old.
Guilty pleasure?
Smoking.
Childhood celebrity crush?
Janet Jackson.
Yeah. Pet peeve?
Liars.
Me too. Secret talent?
I can write backwards with both hands.
Whoa. How did you find that out?
I was trying to be difficult in school. I was acting like I was dyslexic and...
3 adjectives to describe you.
Frightened, exhilarated, and son of God in nature.
Quality you appreciate most in others.
Compassion.
I think loyalty. Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
I was going to say that. You're on a desert island. What 3 things do you have with you?
A toothbrush, a book of Walter Russell's New Concept of the Universe, and an imagination.
If you could have something named after you, what would it be?
A son.
Proudest accomplishment?
Being able to take my mom to the Oscars.
Tell me something no one knows about you.
Very few people know that I have synesthesia.
You have what?
Synesthesia.
What is that?
It means when you see a color, you hear the tone to it, or you hear music, you see the color.
Really? Had that since childhood?
Everyone has it. Just it goes into atrophied. If it's when a kid wants to put something in its mouth, it's because that's the most developed sense within his body, and he has an expectation of what that should taste like and what it looks like. So if you don't allow them to try it out, those nerves die.
Terrence, you are an amazing person.
Thank you, Larry. You
Great
are
meeting
as
you,
well.
man.
Thank you.
I want to thank Terrence Howard, Best Man. Holiday is in theaters November 15th. You can find me on Twitter at King's Things, and I'll see you next time. That was great.